And welcome back, and we're now at part 2 of, well, last week's now, because it's Sunday, but new comics, bitches! Anyway, so, moving right along, Cold War number 2. Now this is John Byrne's throwback to the Bond era. He's got his, his kind of badass secret agent, Michael Swan, doing all of this undercover work and, trying to be all cool and shit. And he is. If the early Bond films, were half as entertaining as this comic is, I would have liked those early Bond films a lot more. But ultimately, it's kind of that hindsight 2020 and everything like that. Because if this type of attitude were brought to those films, and it's there, but it's just not there like it is in this comic. It's just kind of this beautiful 60s retro, it's not so much retro, but return to that time, that era of the Cold War and of these, and spies and defectors and, the commies and, the Tommies and everything, it's just, where British secret agents kind of ruled the landscape. They were the coolest thing going, man. With Danger Man / Secret Agent Man, however, depending upon which country you lived in, and The Prisoner, and all that kind of stuff. It's just, British secret agents were very dominating in the 60s, and here's John Byrne's take on this. Byrne is an absolute master of storytelling, and don't let anybody ever tell you different. He's a great artist, he's a great writer, and this was a terrific issue. The car race, where it just seems like it's kind of for fun, and then all of a sudden it turns deadly, and it's like, what's going to happen next? It's just, this is the kind of fun that you want out of, if James Bond were a comic book, this would be the kind of fun that you would want. So that's how I feel about it, and that's what's going on with it. Okay, so let's move along. Where are you? Here you are. So we've got The Fearless, number 2. So I don't know if this is coming out on a weekly basis or what. Again, just another great cover by Arthur Adams. But aside from that, part of the issue with this particular comic is that there's a lot of writers here, there's a lot of artists here, and it doesn't seem to really have cohesion. It just seems to be a little confusing. We've got, basically, Brock Rumlow, aka Crossbones, trying to, retrieve the remaining hammers, and but you've also got, the book seems to be centered on kind of him, but also very much on Valkyrie, who is kind of an unsung character. She's a member of the Secret Avengers. And unfortunately, she finds herself at odds with the Secret Avengers here, but also finds herself at odds with vampires. So, because they're kind of the go-to bad guys when you seem to run out of ideas. It spans from it spans from World War II Germany to present-day Germany, where Valkyrie is fighting these vampires, and then, they're kind of, it's kind of, the fight ends, and, and stuff goes on, and, she's still thinking that she's doing all the right things as far as the hammer is concerned. But there's a lot of underlying themes here, but again, part of it is that it's just too mishmashed. It feels rushed, like they're really pumping away at it, trying to get it out, and that's it's not a good approach to take to this kind of storytelling. So it doesn't really work. But, you know, parts of it do, and the parts that do kind of outweigh the parts that don't, so I'm going to keep going with it for a little while longer and see if it really shapes up into something. But otherwise, this could be something that gets dropped pretty quickly. So, okay, we have, and where are you, sir? Okay, we have Men of War #3. This is a comic that is so much better than it should be. I'll put it that way. And I think I might have said that before, but it's so damn good. And, you know, these guys, Rock's, Sergeant Rock's company, they're kind of in deep shit here. And, there's some scary stuff that goes on in this book. And then all of a sudden, in the midst of this huge firefight, I mean, it would be hard for me to even kind of, tell about what exactly is going on here. But, obviously, Rock's team is tasked with retrieving something. And ultimately, but they're overrun by hundreds of bad guys. And then all of a sudden, we've got, this. And we're like, what the hell has just happened? And, this is not some guy exploding from some kind of incendiary round or something like that. It is something really scary. And really, it's a very unknown quantity. But we've got, so I mean, that's terrific. And then we've got the B story about the Navy SEALs, which is also really good, which is why this book is $3.99, because you really are getting your money's worth. You're getting 2 stories for the price of 1, and the B story is terrific as well, because you got, Ivan Brandon is writing the main story, and then the B story is being written by, Jonathan Bankin with art by Phil Winslade. And it's just, the second one, it's scary. I mean, it's scary. There's a very, very palpable sense of fear and suspense and action that's generated here, but it's smart. It doesn't just go for the, kind of the cheap thrill. It's going for something much deeper. What that is yet, as far as the main story with our new Sergeant Rock, is hard to tell, and this is, it's the finale of the B story arc for the Navy SEALs, but it's, it's every bit as good and as fascinating of a war story as can be told, as far as one of the tiny little shreds of war stories. So, again, really, really good issue. If this isn't on your pull list yet, it definitely should be, because it's one of the better titles of the. It's one of the best titles, I would say, of the New 52. Okay, moving along. We are now at Invincible number 84. So, from this, from this page, we're getting kind of the, feeling. Okay, is he, is Mark Grayson? Is he giving it up? Is he not going to be invincible anymore? But again, this issue is kind of what I'm talking about. Because this is Mark looking at things the way that, in a much different way. So, I mean, we have, Mark's kind of, he kind of asks permission of, he kind of asks, permission of, Adam Eve to do what he feels that he needs to do, and he breaks, I can never remember the dude's name, but, the human dinosaur guy that blew up Las Vegas, he kind of helps him break out. So that's, but he's doing it for again, these kind of altruistic reasons, because he believes that he can actually help make the world a better place. That this the dinosaur guy can make the world a better place. And there's moments of of humor, of kind of tenderness here. This is where Kirkman is in his wheelhouse, is with this type of issue. Now, unfortunately, this is, I'm beginning to really think, because I read all of the trades that were available and then started buying up some of the back issues so that I could catch myself up. And now I'm kind of regretting that, because I am thinking that Invincible is something that is ultimately better told in trade. And I hate to say that, because I don't think that Kirkman is one of those guys that just goes out there and just does all this stuff that's terrific and awesome and great, but ultimately, because I don't get the individual issues of The Walking Dead. I only get them in trade. And I was talking to a couple of people at my local comic book store, and they were saying a lot of the same things, that a lot of Kirkman's work does actually work better in trades and not as single issues, because he's telling a much bigger story here. And while I love Invincible and wouldn't trade that comic for anything, I think I might start waiting for the trades, because again, there's a lot of different stories that are being told here at once. He's created such an expansive universe, especially with the Invincible universe, that it incorporates a lot of his other comic work into it. So, but ultimately, like I said, The Walking Dead works better in trade than it does as far as the single issues are concerned. I think Invincible might go that way too, but we'll see. I'll give it a little bit longer. So we also have, this week, we have Batwing, number 3. Again, this is a really strong series that's come out of the New 52. I know a lot of people kind of dump on Judd Winnick. I think that some of that dumping is worth, is certainly justified. But this book, it's unlike any of the other kind of quote-unquote Bat family books, and that's actually where its greatest strength lies. And its other greatest strength lies in the fact that it is set in this faraway land. We, here in the United States, or in the UK, or what have you, the people who actually watch me do this stuff, we are not familiar with Africa. This is an entire world unto itself. It's not just its own continent. It seems like it's its own planet. And we're just not that familiar with the way that it works. And this kind of gets down to this very nitty-gritty, very gritty, tale that it's telling. And it'll be really fascinating to find out exactly, where some of these heroes and where these villains have come from, because, obviously there's a lot of talk in this particular issue about, the recruitment of, young soldiers, boy soldiers, for these, for kind of these, warlords and so on and so forth. That's some pretty scary stuff. This is, really far beyond what we have here in the United States, even though the same could be said about gangs or anything like that. But these are truly, I don't know, but we hear about this, and it's like, well, it's not happening here, so nobody really cares. So, I think part of what this comic is helping to do is kind of bring these questions to light. And, Ben Oliver's art in this comic is just fucking fantastic. It's great. I love it. So, it's again, this is a really strong comic. It's telling a strong story. The issue itself is really good. Not great, but it's really good. But it's just telling a much different kind of story for a much different land. And like I said, that's where its strongest that's where its strengths really come from. So stay tuned. Again, we've got a lot more to cover, so let's keep on doing it. So, stick around.